now what they're doing is they're just cleaning out the crusher and the stemmer from yesterday. You know, making sure that everything's clean and as sterile as it gets.
Sprayed on a disinfectant. There you go. Iodine basically on everything, and now I'm rinsing that out.
Okay. So, can you tell our viewers why it's important to have everything sterile?
You want to control the fermentation and what's starting your fermentation. You know, there's a million different yeasts out there and other bad things that can get into a product and make it go wrong. So the cleaner you are, the better it is because you have more control over the end product.
So you're controlling the bacterial environment.
Correct. Any bacterial, yeast, or anything else, we want to clear out anything and everything we can so that when we go ahead and inoculate the tank with a yeast that we want, it'll be appropriate. It'll give us the characteristics, the flavors, the alcohol levels, all that we hope to get out of the wine.
Ryan is pulling the truck up to dump off a load of Zinfandel here at the Alexander Valley Vineyards Winery. And you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blue valley bins full of beautiful grapes. And in just a minute they'll hook up to the tanks or to the bins. They'll hook up the bins and then they will tip them. These bins hold about 2.5 tons each of grapes. Sometimes the grapes need a little bit of help coming out of the valley bins. Getting the bin a little past vertical even doesn't seem to do the trick. So these guys have to stand here with these grape rakes. I don't really know their official name, but they certainly look like a rake, and pull the grapes out and help them to move on their way through the crusher. Each of these valley bins holds about 2.5 tons of fruit. So on a truck with 6 bins, we're looking at roughly 15 tons of Zinfandel grapes. And then the tanks behind, you can see the big tanks, big silver tanks behind, those are each 40-ton fermenters. So they will hold 40 tons of matter where the wine begins to ferment, the yeast takes hold and turns grapes into wine. Alright, so there's what's that big bin called, Ryan, that they initially get dumped into? The hopper. The hopper. Okay, so they come out of the valley bin into the hopper. You can see that they travel down this chute here on a giant screw auger, which you may not even be able to see because there's so much fruit in there you can barely see it. But here at the end, see how they get dumped down into the crusher stemmer. They go into this middle part here where you can't see, but inside there's a rotating cylinder which looks like one of those, but it's inside here. So you can see the berries and the juice fall out of the cylinder into another tank or a bin that has an auger in it, and that will carry the juice and the berries up through this hose all the way up here and then into a tank where it'll be fermented, the 40-ton fermenters. But on the other end of this contraption, you see here the stems. The stems fall out and they get carried by another auger all the way down here. And then they come out. You can see here at the other end of the process, if you look closely, you can see that bunches of stems are flying out of the bottom of that chute, and they're going into a giant bin on the back of a flatbed truck. So we just saw the grapes being pulled through the crusher stemmer, which removes the stems, leaving only the berries to be made into wine. So what they do with the stems is they go back into the vineyards and they use them as compost and organic matter to replenish the soil and help in the growing process. So it's quite an interesting life cycle of the grape.